What's good, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be showing you a step-by-step breakdown on how you can paint a beautiful portrait just like this one right here using oil paints. And this is for beginners because I broke it down into such easy steps that you're going to be wondering why you haven't been painting like this your whole life. So I'm super excited for this one. Let's get started right away. So first step that you want to do is create the trace that we're going to be following. Now, this is something that you may have heard about, is something called an underpainting. And for this underpainting, you're going to use oil paint for this underpainting. And I use a color called burnt sienna. And I just thin it out and I create a little trace that I'm going to be following. And this is just so all my proportions can be accurate, because if you don't really use proportions and don't really map out all of your proportions, then the picture can come out a little bit sloppy at the end. So we want to avoid all of that, especially at the beginning when we're planning out how the picture is going to be. So this is super important. I show so many videos on how you can create underpaintings, and compared to the reference photo right here, you see that I'm just trying to map out where all of these proportions are going to be. I'm getting the eye line straight. I'm getting the forehead shape the right way. I'm getting all the angles correct. And I'm just mapping it out over here in like very geometric shapes. So you see that this is not like a super perfect trace of everything, but it's just going to be helping us if we ever move offline. So I show you how to create good underpaintings, and you can apply this to any of your photos that you want. I don't want you to just be painting this one photo. You can apply this to any of your photos, and there's also some software apps that you can use to help you out with creating your underpaintings. And I have those all linked in my 7-step guide, which is in the description down below for painting portraits. So it's a 7-step guide. It's going to show you how you can turn any photo that you have into a painting at the end. So just follow those 7 steps, and it's going to be something similar to this video style right here. I show you photos in between, and you just follow that all the way through. You're going to get really good at painting, and you're going to create portraits super easily. So check that out. It's completely free. Just type in your email and I'll get it sent to you right away. So now, after you've created this underpainting, and after you've like figured out how your proportions are going to be and you're ready to use the 7-step guide, then now you're ready to move on to the next step, where we're actually going to start creating this painting that we're making. So the next thing that you're going to use is you're going to use a color right here. It's called burnt umber, and burnt umber is just a really dark brown paint. And this is what we're going to use to map out all of our shadows. So if I go back to my reference photo right here again, you see that there's a lot of shadows that need to be mapped out. And I'm just using the burnt umber, filling out all of these spaces over here. I'm filling it out like where these shadows are underneath his eyebrow ridge and underneath his nose. And I'm using it all around here, like under his neck. And after you fill out all of those areas, it should look something like this right here. So if your photo is looking something like this already, then you're in a pretty good stage and you're ready to move on to the next step. And the size brush that I use, it's like a medium size brush. Let me get it right here so you can see. Yeah, I use a medium size brush, and I like to use this medium size brush because I can get like pretty sharp details with this, and you can also fill out pretty large spaces. That's why I don't really like to use like super huge brushes, because you can't really get the sharp details like where I'm creating his eyes, but I can still fill out pretty large spaces with this size brush. And I'm not using a super thin brush that will take super long for me to fill out all of these dark spaces. So now, after you've done that, now you're ready to move on to the next step, which is where you're going to start to transition between your darkest shadows all the way to like your mid-tones. So in between that, we need to have like a transition phase, and what I use over here is a little bit of that burnt umber that we had from before, and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of white just to lighten it up and to make this transition really smooth. So this color is going to go like we're next to these darkest shadows that we have with the burnt umber, just to make the transition a little bit smoother. So you also see over here in this reference photo that the darks they have like a transition phase in between before it gets to the light color. So this color right here, we're just using that burnt umber mixed with the white to fill that out. So now on to the next step. You're gonna be using some burnt umber mixed with some burnt sienna and also with some white, and you're gonna fill it out until it looks like this. And the reason why I use the burnt sienna is just to give the color a little bit more warmth and the skin tone, so the skin tone isn't like too pale, because if you just use burnt umber mixed with white all the way until you get to your lightest stages, it's gonna look too pale and it's not gonna really have like that warm skin tone. So that's why I use some burnt umber in between, so the skin can have a little bit more life to it. So now after that, you're just gonna add some more white, and this is gonna be like a pretty large area that you're filling out. And now the face is gonna have like 90% filled out, and there's just gonna be some little white spaces that we're gonna fill out with some pure white. And for the pure white, you're just gonna fill out all of those white spaces. So this is gonna create a really nice transition all the way between your darks to your lights, and is gonna have a nice smooth skin tone. So really make sure that you blend all the colors really well and you have a nice smooth transition in between the darks and all the way to the lights. And once you get here, then think about it like you're almost finished, like you're doing really good, and you just gotta keep on going. And now we're pretty much done with those skin tones, and now we're focusing on like some of the smaller details, such as the beard and his eyebrows and the rest of his body. So now on to the next step. You're gonna fill the lips with some pink. You're gonna use some pink also over here in the forehead, because in the reference photo there was a little bit of pink that needed to be mapped out, and to give the skin a little bit more variety in its tone. And I didn't want it to just be just the burnt umber and the burnt sienna. I wanted to add a little bit of pink tones to give it that flesh-like look. And you can add this too. You can skip out on this step as well if you want, but if you really want that realistic look that we're going for, add some pink, add like some small splashes here and there, because those little things make a huge difference and it's gonna give it that more realistic look. So after you add in that pink, then now you're gonna use some gray. For the gray, I just used some black over here and mix it with a little bit of white, and I got this gray color right here, and I used it over here in the hair because it's like some thinned out hair, and it's also in his eyebrows, and I put it also in his beard. So now the picture is almost finished. We just need to finish it out with some black for the shadows and some white for these remaining areas in the beard. So now the picture is finished, and you can just add some finishing touches if you like. And the blacks, just to really darken up these shadows, such as like around his face right here, I just wanted to darken that up a little bit more, make it a little bit more prominent, because in the reference photo, I see that there's some really dark areas that need to be focused on. So these are the easy 9 steps that you need to follow if you want to get to a portrait just like this one right here. So you're just transitioning from your darks all the way to your lights, and then you start to add in your details. So if you want to get the best results possible, keep on practicing this. It's not going to be like ingrained in your mind like one time going through it. So you're going to keep on practicing this, and I'm telling you, the more you do it, the more you're gonna get this, and you're gonna start to realize some patterns whenever you're painting, because that's what I've personally went through, and I've noticed like a lot of patterns, especially when you're painting portraits, because you're pretty much making the same thing every single time. You're just changing the variety, you're changing like somebody's hair, you're changing the skin tone, you're changing like the smoothness of their texture of their skin, but like 90% of the thing is just like repeating it all over again. Just keep on trying it, and the more you develop this, you're gonna get super fast. Like you're gonna get really fast, and you're gonna be cranking out portraits easily just like this. So if this is something that you want, you're not that far from it. You can get this really easily, and I've like blown my mind like how easily I'm able to paint portraits now. And this is really good, especially if you want to start selling your artwork, or you want to push it out, get it to like more places. You want to get into galleries, if you want to just whatever you want to do with it. If you just want to create portraits just for your friends, or even just have it as a skill, something that you like to do in your free time, I think is really worth it. And this is something that I really enjoy doing. So that's the reason why I created the 7-step guide for you to follow in the description down below. Check it out. I think that's going to be really helpful, especially if you don't know where to start, or if you're just trying to get good and you need some like guidance along the way. So over there, also in my emailing list, you're going to get access to me, because I'm going to launch an art coaching. It's going to help you out with all of the difficulties that you have, because I know that along this process, it can be a little bit tough, and art school is like pretty expensive. So if you don't want to waste like thousands of dollars on like art school or something like that, I'm gonna give you everything that I know, and I'm gonna give you all the mistakes that I've made, and I'm gonna teach you how you can avoid them, and so that you can get to the place that you want to be and be proud of the work that you make. So that's there if you're interested. And I want to thank you all for watching this video. And if you want to learn the top mistakes that you should avoid whenever you're painting portraits, click the video on the screen right now, and I'll see you all over there.